Yo, what up? It's your boy Corey Populus from Circulate, also known as Young Corey, and we're here today with Money Merch. The reason I wanted to start my brand is just because I grew up just loving streetwear and skateboarding, and early on I knew that if there was a possibility to make a career out of this, then I would. You know, I ended up working at Diamond on Fairfax for about 6 years and just like got to be a part of them, you know, building that culture of streetwear here in LA with early brands like the Hundreds and Crooks and Castles and Supreme and Reserve and just all those brands that were super poppin' and great. And I think that was in like 2010. Yeah, just working at the shop and learning and seeing how Nick operated his brand. And as I got older, I was like, well, I can't be in a store forever, you know what I mean? So got to figure out a way to do my own thing. So I started doing a lot of freelance design and production stuff for a couple different clients and just kind of learned the ropes and figured all that stuff out. And I was like, well, I can't work for this person forever either. So I need to start my own thing, and just, you know, slowly but surely it led to here. I grew up here in LA in Leimert Park area. I grew up, that was like in the early like 1999s, like 2000s. And I used to skateboard. So like growing up in the Crenshaw area, I think I had like 3 other friends that were black that skateboarded, and the rest of the homies were Mexican. And like skateboarding back then was like looked at as like a white thing. So we were like the only kids in my neighborhood that skateboarded. And obviously like there was a lot of like bad stuff going on, like gangbangers and things like that. And they used to like, you know, call us white boys. And like, it was just different to be black and being a skateboarder or like being into the things that we were into. We learned early on like how to ride the bus and like get out of the hood and go, you know, somewhere else. And we used to ride the bus to Venice Beach. There was a bunch of kids that skateboarded, and like, you know, obviously there wasn't a lot of black skateboarders, but people like Kareem Campbell, and there's a couple other like prominent black skateboarders like in my generation back then that we used to look up to. But yeah, I grew up skateboarding and just leaving my area to go over to Venice Beach, like seeing how people like live differently over there and like how much different it was from where I was from. That really like played a role and shaped me into who I am, because my environment that I lived in was totally different from over there. It just exposed me to different things and different types of people. I think that kind of helped me transcend into who I am today. I think it's kind of cool that I got to see both sides of, you know, living in my neighborhood and then making friends and seeing how they're living on that side of town. And yeah, lived in Leimert for almost all my life, and we ended up moving to Northern California, Sacramento, because my neighborhood was just getting super bad. Me and my sisters and my mom and my brother, we all lived in a super tiny apartment, like sharing rooms and not having a lot of space. And my mom got an opportunity to get a house up in Sacramento that was like super cheap. You know, we all got to have our own room, and first time that I had a front yard and a backyard, that was a whole different thing because it was just way different from LA. And like obviously growing up in LA, I got exposed to, you know, LA culture and just like all the cool stuff that was going on here, and there wasn't really much going on up in Sacramento. So every school break I got, I would come back and like sleep on my friends' couches, or like every holiday vacation, just things like that. I would always just find myself back in LA, and I just kind of made up my mind like, yo, when I graduate and I'm an adult, like it's time to like get out of the house, I'm moving back to LA. And that's kind of what I did. I ended up meeting Nicky Diamond in a club in San Francisco through Ben Baller. You know, we exchanged numbers, and I had been talking to Nick on MySpace for years, and we were kind of like online friends, and I had never really met him in person yet. Yeah, I met him in a club in San Francisco. We exchanged numbers. We just kind of kept in contact. I think it was the Agenda trade show. I had texted him and I was like, yo, I'm coming down to LA to go check out this trade show. Is there any way you can get me in? And like, I would love to like link up with you again, and like blah, blah, blah. And he like connected to me with someone on his team, and they actually like ended up like getting me a pass to like get into the trade show, and just connected with those guys. And like the guy on his team, this guy named Sean Apgar, he just ended up being really cool. Got his contact, and he worked in the office at Diamond when they were like just starting to bubble. And I would hit him up periodically. I was ready to get out of Sacramento and go back to LA. So I had my mom help me apply to like FOSFA and all this stuff to like get into art school and like get like a grant or whatever it is. I moved back to LA, living on my friend's couch, which was only supposed to be for like a week. I was like, yo, I'll live here for like, you know, a week or two so I can find my own place or whatever. And I was going to the Art Institute of North Hollywood. I went there for a couple months, and I was still living on my friend's couch. He probably hated it, but super thankful for him and his mom letting me stay there. I went there for a couple months. It was like a regular school format. After a while, it just got really boring. My major was like graphic design. I thought going into it, I was gonna be on like like a computer 24/7 and just like, you know, learning all the programs, Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and all that stuff, which we were kind of learning, but I was in like a math class, art history, and we had this class where a nude model came to class and would like stand on like a block and we'd have to draw her. I was super immature, just drawing like big titties and just doing that whole thing. And I wasn't taking it serious just because it felt like more school, and I was never really one to like love school. I love things like photography class and things like that. At one point, I just stopped going and started ditching school and hanging out on Fairfax because I could see that that was the hot spot. It wasn't really the hot spot yet, but it was like, if you know type of hot spot. So like Tyler and all those guys were hanging out there, and like Anwar and just like all the kids that I thought were super cool. And this culture was starting to form over there, and I was just like, damn, this is where I belong for real, you know what I mean? So I would show up there every day. I would go hang out with the guys in the office at Diamond with Sean and all those guys and hang out in front of the hundreds. I like met Bobby Hundreds, which I thought was super crazy because big fan of the blog, and that really opened my eyes to like loving streetwear more. And just being around that, it just made me feel like I had found my place. I started ditching school every day. It started off as I would go to the classes I liked, and then I would just leave and go to Fairfax, and then little by little it just wouldn't go at all. And I remember my mom just calling me like, yo, how was school? And I'd be like, oh, it was dope, like blah, blah, and I wasn't even there. You know, a couple of months went by and I started hanging out at the Diamond office more and more when they were like shipping out orders. And one day they asked me like, yo, do you want to help us with this? And I started helping. And then once I got that, I was just like, oh damn, this might be like a foot in the door or something, you know what I mean? So I started going back every day, and I kind of just became like the office intern. I wasn't getting paid. I would help them ship out a bunch of orders every day, go in at like 9 a.m. and I would leave at 6. And I was doing that every day, you know, hopefully it will turn into something. And I was just happy to be there, you know what I mean? Like they gave me free clothes, and like I used to trade clothes for like food or like sell clothes to pay my cell phone bill and things like that. And I was just like super happy to be there. And when I would get off of work there at 5, 6-ish, I would go down to the store and hang out there. And the same thing kind of started happening there. They would be like, yo, like, can you go grab something from the back for us? And it kind of became this thing where I was at the office morning to the evening, and then I would finish out at the store until they closed every day. It turned into me just being at the store every day, helping those guys out and being an intern there. And this was in the transition period of Diamond expanding, making the store bigger. I think that they seen that I was like determined and like down, just showing up every day for free and like helping those guys out while they were remodeling a store and like doing backstock inventory and just doing all the little things, and kind of became a part of the team. And when the store opened, I actually got offered a job finally. I was interning for like 2 years, just no pay, just getting by however I could get by. I ended up getting a job and everything just started to work out. It was really cool because I got to see Diamond go from being like a brand like mine is right now to just becoming like $1 million business. And seeing all the people that came through and all the customers that came through and just different people, and getting to be around Nick. He was just starting to get money like that. So like he was exposing me to things that I never did, like nice restaurants and going to the club and like just like a different side of life that I wasn't used to. He was exposing me to, which I'm like super grateful for. And this was also around the time of like when social media was like starting to bubble, like Twitter and Instagram was like freshly new. He would shout us out on the internet, and like all these kids that would come in, they would follow us. And then like Tyler and all those guys were like blowing up on the internet. And you know, obviously I was kind of associated with them in a small way. I was like building a following online through social media, so that helped out a lot. And yeah, it kind of helped me out here today. Like a bunch of kids that know me from like the Fairfax era of my life, like they still follow me and support my brand today. So yeah, without all of that, I guess I wouldn't be here today. I try to cater to everybody, but obviously like I'm black, so like that's a big part of my brand. I'm a storyteller at the end of the day. I think when Nike SB came out, it really just opened my eyes to like storytelling. I loved how like they would take a colorway and like it wasn't just a random colorway, it would have like some type of story like attached to it. It'd be like, oh, like, you know, a lot of people are doing like grandma's couch now and things like that. I feel like Nike SB like really like pioneered that, because obviously like Jordan, like they've always been storytelling around Michael Jordan, but when I caught on to Nike SB, just like the way that they were telling stories through the shoes and the colorways just like really sparked something in me, and loving the way that storytelling was done. That kind of translates to my brand today, and I tell a lot of different stories, especially through like black culture and things like that. And I think we're also just like rooted in community. I think community is like the core of my brand. Obviously we make clothes and things like that, but I try to use my brand as a way to build community or help somebody out or help a certain amount of people or help kids that look like me or like give them resources through my brand. And I think I really get that from from the hundreds and Bobby hundreds, just like how we were talking about that blog earlier, and just how he was able to build like community through his blog and through his brand. And I think that really resonated with me as a kid. And if I ever started something, how it would carry on to my brand. And I think we're like rooted in community and culture, especially Black culture. There's been a ton of hardships that I've had running my brand. The biggest one that I could ever think about is I started my brand in 2018. We're like slowly growing because like I don't have one of those like crazy hype brands where it's like mad celebrities are wearing my stuff or like things are just like the most popular thing. It's more rooted in me. Slow and steady is better than being like the super hype brand, because like I seen it at Diamond. It was like once you go up so much, it's like the only way down is down, you know what I mean? So props to everybody that has one of those type of brands. I think it's really cool that people can put up stuff and sell out super fast, but my brand is more slow and steady. It's growing little by little, which I like because I can keep up with the pace of it. Was probably one of my biggest hardships. I do a lot of business with PacSun, and I just remember like getting that email like, yo, we're closing all the stores. We don't know what's going on with this thing, and like we don't know what the future of looks like. I think nobody did at the time. I remember just had put out a new collection right before, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be the one. It's gonna take me to the next level. Like the designs are so good, the stories behind them are so good. And I put it out, I don't remember the exact date, but it was a little bit before. And I just remember like sitting here, I invested all this money from my own pocket that I had saved up. I remember saying like, yo, if it fails, like I'll just make the money back from PacSun, like cause we have a drop coming up with them. And I remember sitting right here in this chair and like just getting the news that we were about to go on lockdown. All these stores are closing and everybody just going crazy chaotic over toilet paper at Costco, and everybody was like, it was so chaotic. And I remember just sitting right here like, damn man, what am I gonna do? I just invested all my money in this collection. PacSun's about to close. Nobody's worrying about buying clothes right now. Everybody is more so trying to get like essentials and home toilet paper and things like that. That was a really hard time, and I just sat here and was like, I gotta get a job, or like I gotta figure something out, or I just gotta like, weather the storm and hopefully it pans out. And it panned out, and I'm still here. And the stress on that, I remember that day specifically, just sitting right here, just like, damn man, it's over. Everything is me. I'm doing customer service, I'm doing sales, I'm doing production. You guys know that. I'm constantly on the phone with you guys or texting you guys to get my stuff done. Design, I actually have my mentor helping me with certain design stuff now. If I need help on certain things, I'll contract it out. But I think a thing that a lot of people fail to realize with business is like, it's cool to have a team, obviously, if you can afford it, but people are expensive, and like if you want good service, it's expensive. So unless you have the homies that are down to like build with you and come up with you, then sometimes it's hard finding good help, you know what I mean? It's like you gotta have the budget and you gotta have the overhead to pay for it. So with me, I try to keep my overhead as low as possible. I mean, you guys see how small my office is, it gets the job done, but I'm just, with my brand and like the business side of things, I'm just trying to keep my overhead as low as possible, just because you never know, another it might strike, and you have fucking 30 employees, and how do you tell them you can't pay them because the world's about to stop? And like I don't know, it just feels like a heavy weight on my shoulders. I'd rather contract out people for certain jobs. A lot of those type of situations where you see me do like crazy collaborations and things like that, it's just honestly somebody in the office that's vouching for me. Like maybe it's someone that knows me from the internet and they've seen my stuff, or like maybe a friend of a friend, but 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that's in the office and they're like, yo, like this guy's doing really cool stuff, you know what I mean? Like check his stuff out, and it ends up working out. And I always say like, it's not about how big you are. You could have 1 million followers, or you could have, 10,000 followers on Instagram or any type of social media or anything like that. But it's just about building relationships with people, and you might have somebody that that ended up getting a job at 2K, and like you've kept this rapport with them and you've been in good standings and you guys have a great relationship, and they're gonna vouch for you because they know that you can do the work. And a lot of times that's how these projects happen for me. A lot of people are always like, oh, how you do this? Like your brand only has this many followers and da 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 da. But it's just, I have really good relationships, man, and I hold those near and dear to my heart. Not to like say that I use people or anything like that. It's just like having relationships with people, and they end up in certain places, or like someone that works at a certain place could be a fan of what you're doing and they just take a chance on you and it all works out. But a lot of those projects that I do like that, it's always through like having a relationship with someone, or they're just a fan of what I do and they're just giving me a chance. And I have like the super utmost respect for those type of people, just because like it's easy to go with like a bigger creator or a bigger brand and give them the opportunity because it's probably going to be a sellout thing or whatever. But when you give like a smaller creator or a smaller business or a smaller brand an opportunity like that, it helps them grow more more, and it also makes you look good. And then like from the flip side of things, like the consumer wants to support more because they're like, yo, like that's tight. You gave this smaller brand an opportunity and they crushed it. And like now I'm a fan of that brand. And like I think everybody wins in those circumstances. Like obviously sometimes you have to go with a bigger creator or something, but I think when you give those like smaller businesses and smaller creators that opportunity, it helps them grow, man. And it's a good look all around. Everybody wins and everybody's happy. I watch a lot of like TV and documentaries and things like that when I want to get creative. And traveling, man, I love traveling. Like I travel a lot, whether it's Fashion Week or just like the homies going to Japan or going to New Zealand to visit friends or going here or going there. I try to plan my travels around like things that are going on, and I just like seeing different cultures, like how people are living and different architecture, how the buildings are and how people dress in different places, because we live in LA obviously. So it's like you go to New York and people are wearing coats and things like that, or you go to like Europe in the summer and people dress different there. So like getting inspired for me is a lot of reading and watching documentaries and traveling. Traveling I think is a big one for me. The way I go into designing like product and collections, it's either current events or, you know, something I'm into at the time. Just things that make sense, I guess, that in a sense. Like for example, like the Olympics were just on and I got really inspired by seeing like all the Olympic stuff, and I just did a whole collection about the Olympics. I love Black history, and like I love those like Black history stories that aren't told, you know what I mean? It's like, I say this all the time, but it's like everybody knows the Michael Jacksons and the Michael Jordans and those type of people, but it's like I did a collection on Paul Williams, and he's like the architect of LA. Like he helped remodel the Beverly Hills Hotel. Mad homes in LA are Paul Williams homes, and like just things like that, and like those type of stories about Black people that a lot of people don't know. And like obviously like we have a whole new crop of youth that are Black, and I think those stories are important. They should know about those types of people too. Obviously like people like Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson are great, but I think, you know, the people like Paul Williams are just important. Working with corporate could be really easy or it could be really hard. For example, working with PacSun, I've been with them for about 6 years now, 5-6 years, ever since I started my brand. And at first I had to learn the ropes like everybody else. Like you have to ship things to them a certain way. You have to label it, you have to order UPC tags, and they have to go on, they have to be packaged right, they have to be boxed up right. I mean, you guys know this, you do it for me, but there's a lot of different steps in that. It's not just your regular e-commerce stuff where you can box some stuff up and send it out and it's all fine and dandy. With them, you gotta make sure, you gotta get the designs in, it's usually net terms on payment, so you gotta find a printer that is gonna take that on for you, or you're gonna pay it out of pocket. You gotta like package it a certain way, you gotta do the stickers, you gotta do all of that stuff. And it's much different than your normal like, you know, retail store. Like if I sell to a store like Union, which I do, it's most of the time just me here in the office packing all that stuff, packing their order and sending it off to them, and then, you know, it's all done and they'll pay me. But working with someone like PacSun, it's much different. And then from a design front, it's also much different because, you know, when you run your own online store, you can kind of do whatever you want to do. But when you're working with a corporate brand and say a collaboration, they have a whole legal department. So it's like certain things they have to protect their IP, and like they go about how you can design and use their IP in a certain way. So like you got to give props to brands and creatives when you see certain corporate brands let them flip their IP in a collaboration. Like Joe Freshgoods, for example, like on most of his shoes it says "Made for Us," which is, you know, New Balance. I don't know what their tagline is, but it's something along those lines, and he flipped that, and that's crazy that legal let him do that. And just little certain things like that when it comes to big corporate projects and like their legal department letting you do certain things, you got to give props to the creators because it's really hard to get a lot of stuff past legal. Like I've been working on a project that I can't really say who it is yet, but I've been working on this project for about 8 months now, and it took a lot to get all the designs through legal. I finally did it, but yeah, it's a lot sometimes working with legal on the design front when you're working with corporate brands. We got to work with the NFL for the Super Bowl in LA, which was really dope because the Rams ended up winning the Super Bowl. It was our first time having the stadium here in LA, and like our football team won, and like I got to be a part of that project, and that was super cool. That was probably like one of my first super big projects. And another one would probably be Coachella. I got to do Coachella 2 years ago, which was really fucking dope. I got some friends over there that work at Coachella, and they reached out to me to do a project with them, and it was like sold at the main merch booth at Coachella, and actually sold out out both weekends, and it was a lot of product, and just walking around the festival in itself and seeing people that didn't even know who I was or had any clue about me wearing the stuff was insane, which is back to my point about just, I don't have a crazy hype brand, but I like know that we're really good at designs. For people to like not even know us or anything and they just appreciated the design, like that kind of stuff is always important to me. And yeah, Coachella was really dope because I go every year, and like to have my stuff sitting at the merch booth and people buying it and supporting it, and fucking crazy. I actually did a 3-way collab. It was Circulate, Diamond, and the Hundreds all in one collaboration, which is like a dream for me, you know what I mean? Like those guys like paved the way for me. They not only like Nick put food in my mouth and money in my pocket, and Bobby just like inspired me so much. So to do a collaboration with my own brand with those two guys that like pretty much like helped raise me and like brought me into this space was like a dream come true, and it was like kind of unbelievable, man. And it was crazy, and like a couple pieces from that actually sold out, which was really dope. And just to do that and see that as like a part of like streetwear history. My brand's called Circulate, so for that to come back around is super crazy to me, and like to do a collaboration with both of them all in one is like pretty insane. And that was definitely like one of the highlights of my career, from working with those guys to like working with them is super crazy, and was just like a you can do it too moment for me, and super crazy, and I'm super grateful for that collaboration, and that's probably one of my favorites. The thing that keeps me going is like I really love sneakers and streetwear, and like being able to like build a career off something I love. It drives me every day to like keep going, because honestly it has a lot of stress, and mentally it can really like break you sometimes, but I'm really happy doing this. It brings me great joy, and it's not even about the money or anything like that. Seeing your ideas like come to fruition, and like seeing how people react to them and appreciate them, and like, you know, seeing random people support you and things like that really makes me feel good. And then on the flip side of that, it feels good to show kids that look like me that like you don't have to take the traditional route of, you know, going to school and being a doctor or whatever people are doing these days career-wise that's super popular. You can make a living off your dreams and help your family members and things like that out through a non-traditional career. Also, just being able to use my brand to help others. Like we've donated a lot of money. I don't post about it a lot or anything like that, but we donated a lot of money through our partnership with PacSun to various charities, just through certain projects. Project I do called Circulate Market at PacSun. And yeah, we've just been able to donate a lot of money to, you know, kids that look like me or come from the same background as me, and helping excel them in like art and whatever they're trying to do. We've helped with computer labs and different funds like that, and I think that's really cool. I grew up super poor and not having access to certain things that I'm now able to help out through my brand, and I think that's one of the things that keeps me going too. Baggy pants are back. Like I remember there was a point in time where nobody wanted to touch baggy pants, and like I come from like the 90s era of skateboarding, so like everybody was wearing baggy pants when I was growing up. That crazy like Cudi, Kanye transition that got everybody like wearing skinny jeans, and like seeing baggy pants come back now has been like kind of funny, because like it's just that saying of like, you know, everything comes back around, and that's what my brand Circulate also like one of our mantras is it's crazy to see it come back, but it's not at the same time. But baggy pants right now is like a big trend that I see like here to stay for a little bit. And the thing I would say to someone barely starting off running a clothing brand, honestly, I think right now in this climate of where we are, and like this year of where we are, I think we're oversaturated, man. I would probably tell them like, start it if your heart is really in it and you're ready to like, you know, battle and like really get it up and going, but don't start it just because you want to make some money. I think right now we're oversaturated with brands, and it's just like there's too much. Like you go on TikTok, everybody's got the formula to start a brand, and it's like I think that you should really start a brand if it's something you really want to do, not because you want to make a lot of money or be popular or whatever it is. I think you should do it because you really love it and like it's something that you really want to do. But yeah, it's not easy, and like I think especially right now we have so many different brands and so many different things to choose from that I don't know, my advice would be not to start a brand. Like if I had to start a brand from scratch and zero and being like no one right now at this very moment, I probably wouldn't do it, just because it'd probably be super hard. But I don't know, like I'm always up for a challenge, but just like if I had the knowledge of what I know now and like how hard it is to get something off the ground, like I probably wouldn't do it. But it's your fate, go for it. I'll never discourage somebody from doing what they want to do and like something that they believe in. But I don't know, we need more accountants and you know, lawyers and things like that in our field. So I don't know, I would suggest someone do something like that. I feel like there's a shortage of those type of people. Like be an accountant and contract all the streetwear brands. You'll probably make a bunch of money. If I had to pick a blank, I really love LA apparel, especially because it's made in LA, and like their quality is really good, but I feel like sometimes it's really inconsistent. But if it was up to me and I could print on any blank that I wanted without my customers and everyone shitting on quality and things like that, I'd probably do all style, but it's now changed to American apparel. At the moment, I don't have any collabs coming up that I can talk about, but I definitely have the collab coming up that I'm super proud of. Yeah, it'll be here around October, November-ish. I'm super proud of it. I can't wait to talk more about it. But other than that, I have a really big collection. That's also another collab that I can talk about, but I don't want to ruin it yet. I don't want to talk about it, but it's going to be super tight. There's a bunch of cut and sew pieces, which we really just got into making, like cut and sew and being able to do that. Super hyped on that, and that'll be out around November, December-ish. So yeah, 2 big projects coming out. Might see us at ComplexCon also. I'm still trying to figure that out. I get hit up all the time to do different projects and collaborations, so hopefully that will come soon. Other than that, I'm really trying to collaborate with a shoe brand, so hopefully that comes within like the next year or 2. But other than that, we're gonna keep doing our thing regardless, and we're here. My message to my supporters is thank you, man. Like, I can't say it enough. Like I said earlier, I kind of come from nothing. So to be able to live my dream and like make a living off of it via support of you guys, I'm super thankful. I think sometimes on the internet, I get overly grateful and I say thank you a lot, and I don't want it to come off as weird or anything, but I really mean that shit. Like, I was just having this conversation with my friend the other day because like when I was working at like Diamond and trying to come up, I remember just like some days like not having food to eat, or like I was on EBT at one point and like just doing whatever I can to like make it through, riding the bus. This is like before Uber was like popping like that. Just like having no money, and like now when I pull up to my house in my car and like I just sit in my garage sometime and I'm like, damn, like this is real life. And it's like that doesn't happen without the support of everybody that supports us. And yeah, I'm just honestly grateful, man, like to be able to do this and still be here 6 years later. I'm just super grateful every single day, man, and it's cool, and thank you guys.